Hey everyone, this is Wei and welcome back. So this is going to be the step-by-step drawing video for one of the Clash of Clans and Clash Royale characters, the PEKKA. He's a really cool character, and I know this is a little bit different from what you guys are used to see me draw, which is mostly portraits and people. But once in a while, it is really good to draw something different, a little bit, something cartoony, just kind of push your boundaries a little bit. Because drawing is drawing, and the more you draw, the better you're gonna get. So let's get started, and I'll talk about the process along the way. Okay, so let's draw this PEKKA. So this is gonna be kind of fun drawing. It's cartoony, but there's also gonna be a little bit of shading. All right, so let's just start off. I'm just gonna start off with the head. Let me put this in frame. Now the head is kind of like it's kind of like a cylinder. I'm just gonna block it out first. And then from there, I'm just gonna, keep going. So let's say the eyes right around here. All right. Now with this kind of drawing, it's kind of cartoony, so you don't have to worry too much, even though if it's a little bit off, right? It's not like you're drawing a portrait. Armor goes down. Okay. So now we look at, now that we have the head in place, well, let's just do the horns, I guess. The horns are not as important because once you have the head, it's like, you know where the horn's gonna go, right? So let's just move down and block in some of the more, important features. So starting on this side, let's see, right around from the middle of the eye has these huge shoulder pads. So I'm just gonna block that in. Kind of comes down like that. Okay, and then his arm's gonna come over here. So I'm just kind of blocking it out. Okay, and then now the hand somewhere over there. All right, so I'm gonna skip that. Let's move on to the other part. From the armor, since it's kind of the same, so it needs to be kind of semi-symmetrical. So it's got this round shape right here, and it comes up. All right, so I'm measuring. You can see how I'm measuring, from this side, the shoulder pad, to this side. It kind of follows that line. So it kind of comes straight out, and it goes pretty far out, almost the width of the head. So that's kind of how you can, rough in these shapes, is just by measuring. And if you get it off, it'll be off, but it's okay, right? It's just a cartoon. As long as it's close, it still looks good. And then the center of the body, if you go straight down from the head right around there, we know that's gonna be a line right there. Okay, and we'll sketch this breastplate. Now this PEKKA is a pretty cool character. I don't know if you guys play Clash of Clans or the newer game by Supercell, Clash Royale. The PEKKA in Clash of Clans is okay, but in Clash Royale it's actually really cool because it's like the way it moves is really cool. It's like it's really slow and it kind of waddles along because of the heavy armor. So as you can tell, I'm a Supercell fan. Been playing the game for years. Okay, and then it's kind of got a pretty big tummy. I'm gonna push this down a little bit. It's a huge armor plating, and then this little handle right here. And then let's see the leg. Okay, let's start from the middle. Since we have some guidelines right here, right? We know this is the middle. There's another plate down here, and then another 2 plates here. I can actually draw them as one because they're very similar. You can actually block it in like that, and then now I can draw in the individual plates. So that's one way of doing this, especially these kind of cartoony stuff. It's really try to look at the overall shape first, like right here. Just 2 plates right here coming down. I can actually draw them as one, right? Just do that, and then now I can go in and separate them out. Okay. So very important for cartoon, just more cartoon drawing. And you can, the same process goes for actually everything else you draw. just being able to recognize, the overall shapes first, and then, hone in on the smaller and smaller area. So like right here, the arm, it comes straight down. Here's the little plate. Here's the little spikes. I'm just gonna put a little placement in there, because I don't need to draw the details for now, because just in case, if it happens to be kind of really off and stuff, right, then that way I don't have to erase too much stuff. So that's why you don't put in the details at first. Just try to block in the big stuff. Fingers, very important to get the hands. All right, so let's move back up here. Let's see. All right, let's just sketch in the hand real quick. Now this hand's a little bit tricky because it's holding a sword. So let's see, if the sword's like this, and then now we can see the fingers over it. And then the fingers, you can actually block them out as one big chunk like that, right? Kind of like this. And then now I can separate them out. 1, 2, and 3. And then here's a sword. In perspective, try to get, this is basically just a box. And then the sword from the handle, okay? Just envision that handle line, because that's where it goes up. And it goes up. I guess it goes out of camera, but that's okay. All right, so let's, now we can do the horn. I guess the head is okay. Big horns. Okay. All right, let's get to the fun part, right? Now we can actually put in some details and start shading it. All right, so now I am using a 2B. So I'm gonna start hitting the lines a lot sharper. And if you want to draw real cleanly, you can do it slowly. But just for the sake of this video, so that it doesn't get too long, I'll attempt to draw it a little bit quicker. It depends on how much details you want. So go straight down. Let's do the little mouth area here. Okay, it's dark in here, so we're going to just shade it. It's got a little bit of line in there, so I'm going to shade that. Okay, let's do the other eye. It's basically a triangular shape. Let's drawing the pupil or whatever that is for this PEKKA. Okay, so now we have that. And we can start shading some of the armor, which will take a little bit more time, obviously, because it's not a white armor, so you're gonna have to shade in to really get the form. All right, so this is like a cylinder, but this is dark. This is the darkest part. And if we're going over some of the highlights, it's okay, because we can always erase it out. So now I'm rotating my pencil, or this mechanical pencil, so I can get like a sharper edge. So right here, there's a little highlight right there. So I can actually outline it, right? I can actually outline that and then shade around it. It's actually quite a bit of shading. It just depends on how much you want to do. So let's do the other highlight right here. And this part is pretty dark. So let's draw this plate right here, so we know not to sketch anything in there. Go straight down. And there looks to be another plate in here. So now you can start seeing the more details. This is pretty dark. There's another plate in here. Okay, and then there's another horn coming out. So, you can see it's just, a lot of it's just identifying the shapes, because this is very geometrical. Shade that, shade this, bring out the shape. There's quite a bit of shading in here. And then same here. It's basically a cylinder with kind of faceted. Okay, so it's 1, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Let's see, let's shade this. I'll leave a little highlight right there. So sometimes this kind of, you know, it seems very geometrical, but it's not like a human face. It's not as organic, but still you kind of have to, there's quite a bit of shading. And it's very angular, so sometimes you have to be a little careful. So that's coming about right. This part is darker, so I'm gonna turn my pencil and get a harder edge. I can shade that in a little bit darker. So the important thing is you can see how, you know, this thing develops kind of step by step, right? At the beginning it looks kind of crappy. And then as you keep laying in more and more details, then you start seeing more and more, and you realize what you need to shade and to bring out certain shapes. So this is pretty dark, so I'm just gonna hit that. I really push into it, into the paper. So there's a little bit of shading around the eyes. Let's normally I wouldn't do that right now because it's such a small detail. All right, let's move on here. This part is darker here. There's another plating in here. So right here is actually pretty complicated. Okay, so I'm gonna go down. I might not draw that arm right there, just for this video, because it's kind of it's pretty tedious. I want to show you some of the bigger shapes, like this kind of plating. It's actually more interesting to, you know, show you how to shade bigger shapes first, right? And then you can always go in with the details later. So right now at this point, I'm just kind of, you know, cleaning it up a little bit. Okay, so I can see this is way off, right? This should be a lot bigger, this shape right here. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. So that's what I mean, right? Good thing, you know, we didn't draw too much detail here because we realized this shape was what's wrong. And sometimes you can't see that until you draw on other stuff. So that's why you want to block in big shapes first. So you have this little bun in here. This little bun. All right, let's shade in this armor piece, which is kind of cool. Let me block this out. All right. So this armor piece right here is dark. This plating is dark. So a lot of this shading is hand control, and I really recommend you checking out some of my other videos on hand control, like how to draw lines. Actually, that one's really important. Okay. So like this part right here, it's really dark, and you want to shade this edge darker because it's actually in the reference too. Because it really gives this plating, you know, it really lifts that one forward when this thing right here is dark. And that's what they mean by contrast. Like it's through contrast that we can see the shapes and what is in front and what is what is behind. Shade that. Just a little bit of rim lighting, right? So we're gonna keep this edge right here white because rim lighting is very important. It actually gives it a lot more three-dimensional when you're in the drawing. So here's the Terminator when the light falls off, and then this is kind of grayish. Okay. Yeah, crosshatch right here, just so I can darken it and give it a little bit more, fill in some of the paper by crosshatching. You don't want to go into the same direction too many times because you're not going to hit those areas. By cross-hatching, it actually fills in some of the blanks, some of the spaces on the paper. And this is dark, we know. Okay. So, and then here, there's a little bit of shading. And then right here is dark. And then this whole plating, this edge right here is darker because it looks like it's curving inwards. There's an overall shading to this. It's lighter than, this part is lighter than this, so we're gonna, okay, and then we're gonna cross hatch just in there, just to give that edge, again, a little bit more contrast from this surface to this surface, and that's how you can see, this is like a, like a three-dimensional shape, right? And like, now look at it here. If you see closely, they've drawn this a little bit darker too, this little line, so that it brings out this plating. So now it looks like the face plating, this plate is over the head, which it is. And that's how you bring things into life, give it spatial meaning. So here, and then there's a shadow. You can actually just mark in some of the shadow, just kind of outline it. And then right here, this is darker. This looks like there's a bend in the plating. Now there's a dark line right here, so I'm just gonna hit that line. And then there's just a highlight right here, so I'm gonna just kind of leave that, so I don't have to erase it out. If you can, it's always better to leave the paper white. Just leave it out first. Okay, and then it goes down this part. I know there are edges, right? There's still highlight on the edges. And I might or might not want to keep those, because sometimes it's such a small edge, it's actually really hard to, it's a little time consuming to try to preserve. Sometimes it's better to just go ahead and go over it and then come back with an eraser later. Okay, plating. This is white. Alright, so we can actually do the shadow right here. Soften it up a little bit. And it gets softer on the bottom. Okay. And let's see. Alright, let's move back up here. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. Sometimes it's a little bit too tedious to draw. If you want to spend a lot of time on it, you could. You can do all those. Alright, so let's draw this. Now there's a little shape here, a little design. You can actually just try to follow it as best as we can. And I'm just gonna shade it. Now I notice a lot of complex shading there, right? Because it's an indentation. But don't concentrate on that right now, because you can always put that in later. Right now it's actually better to just shade in this big shape first. There's a little corner there, a little cut. Okay, turning my pencil so I get a sharp edge and I just push into it. So now I shade this. Now this edge is dark because it's rounded, it's curving away. So I'm gonna hit that. And hit this edge right here is dark. Again, it's curving away. Bring back some of this. And then the horn is actually really easy. It's just looks like it's just a bunch of gradation. It's kind of like that. And it gets really dark at the base and it gets lighter. So here's where your hand control comes into play. See? So if you can't do it with one stroke, then you can, just slowly do it. It does take time to develop that kind of hand control, but it's really important. Okay, we can do this one too since it's relatively easy. So push in hard and then go lighter, 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 lighter. Okay. Now I can clean it up. So I'm turning my pencil just so I can get a harder edge. This part is pretty dark. Okay. So it's coming along, right? So now I can actually, if I wanted to, I can hit some of those shadow area on this little pattern here. So I'm pushing in pretty hard onto the paper. Okay, so those are a little detail. You can see how quickly you can do something like that. Now this part is pretty dark. This part is dark here. Okay, it's pretty dark down there, so let's not shade too much. We move down to the hand, which is the arm, which is a little bit more interesting. I might finish the drawing off camera since it's a lot of little stuff. The arm, see curvature, just kind of keep that curvature. Keep the correct perspective. Okay, now this part, you see how this underneath the arm here, so the bicep area, it's all very dark, right? So there's a highlight here though, so I'm gonna draw in some of the highlight right there, so I know I'm not gonna go into it, and there's a shade in there. I'll put like overall value first, right? Just kind of like a base layer, and then now I hit it harder, whatever I see. According to the reference, this part's darker. There's a line right there, kind of like a reflection going on. Hit that. This part is really dark. This part is dark. This part is really dark. So now that I've done some of the shading, now I can go in a little bit more careful and just kind of fix it up a little bit, right? Blend it in if I have to. So now it looks like this thing is under. Now later on, like these edges are kind of fuzzy. If you wanted to, like right now, if I clean it up a little bit, just go in there and tighten it up, then it'll look like a really nice, clean drawing. And that's the kind of stuff, it really brings out the drawing. But it's also the kind of stuff that you should be doing at the end, because again, just in case you make a mistake. But if you can't resist, just go ahead and do it right. All right, so the hand. Now overall it's very dark. There's a little highlight there, so I'm gonna put, that's where we're gonna, the button's gonna be. So everything else, I'm just gonna shade it dark first, just give an overall tone value, and then now I'll go in with the detail. So this is darker. So line there, line here. This is darker because it's under. It's a little bit of reflective light, but very small detail. I want to skip that for now. Okay. So you see what I did there, right? I just kind of left the highlight, there, and just kind of went in there and start shading. All right, now this part is a little bit tricky because there's all these little spikes. So I'm going to sketch in the spikes so that I don't. Let me push this up a little bit. Okay. Drawing this line here. Little dent in the armor. Okay, now here is, this little corner is actually very important because it'll give the shape, or give, make it look the correct shape. So this corner is actually very important because it's catching the highlight. So you gotta make sure we leave that white. Okay. And even in here, there's a little bit of highlight. So we'll try to keep that as much as possible. And then the horns. Darker at the base. Okay, right here. This almost feels like a bumpy, surface. And there's other two horns on the back. And I'm just gonna leave it actually because I don't wanna, that's the kind of stuff that can go later. Because it's behind and might not want to do too much shading. Okay. And finally got to the hand, and the hand is usually very tricky to draw because there's a lot of stuff going on. It's like drawing, it's like you can imagine an arm is one limb, right? Each finger is its own unique limb, so it's like drawing a bunch of arms. You can see how much time that takes. So I'm trying to leave this highlight right here dark, shade it in, leaving that highlight, crosshatch to even things out, dark edge underneath, okay, because the light is coming from above here. Now these are almost very rectangular shapes, so okay, dark finger, very dark. Let me push this up. Dark highlight. It's a highlight right around there, so I'm just gonna leave that. And in this case, I'm actually gonna exaggerate the highlight, make it a little bit bigger, because I'm working with this pencil. You might want to exaggerate the highlight just a little bit more so that you don't run into it, because you can always make it smaller later. Okay, and then the finger, another finger here, comes down, dark, so I'm just gonna shade it in. A little bit of gradation, trying to keep as much highlight as possible. And let's see, did I miss something? I think I did miss something there. I totally missed this plating in here. Okay, well, let me get an eraser. It's a good thing we didn't shade too much here. Cut that out. I'm gonna fit in the plating as best as I could. Plating end probably end up a little bit smaller. And this is where, it's a little bit more forgiving, right? Even if things are off, because it is a cartoon. Okay, this dark. Let's highlight here. I'll try to keep it as much as I can. Okay, another finger. Now we can go in for the detail. Just bring it out a little bit. This is dark, this part is darker, the tip is dark, palm is dark, this part is darker, and then the one behind is even darker. And this little finger here, dark. Okay. All right, so you can see, you know, it's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit more time. Now if I can go in and actually clean in, I'll turn my pencil to get a sharper edge. And I get to go in and shade in a little bit more. So probably do the rest of the drawing without any audio. That way I can do it a little bit quicker so I don't have to speak and draw at the same time. So that's how you do it, you know, just block in the basic shape, right? Start bringing in these big shapes in, and at first when you're sketching, and then, you know, put in some of the middle details here and there, and then go from there, and then start shading, and then at the same time just kind of adjust for you know, some of the mistakes that you've done, because you know there's no way you're going to draw this accurately on the first try. It's really difficult. And then now see, I can actually go in and do the little details that I didn't do earlier, right? And if I wanted to, I'd even use a 4B pencil just to give like these edges a little bit darker. Like if I'll show you how it looks. So here I'm hitting it pretty hard, and that's really gonna give the drawing a lot of depth. It's really gonna bring it out. Because 4B's is its ability to go darker than a 2B. It'll give your drawing a little bit more, you know, a bit much bigger scale. So like here's really dark, and actually just push into it real hard. Alright, so this part I'm gonna speed up because it's a lot of repetition, and it's the same process, you know, what I've shown you earlier. It's the same thing, just a lot of perseverance, and you know, slowly and but surely, you know, we will get this done. So let's see how it turns out. Okay, so here is the full drawing, and as you can see, it's pretty much the same thing, you know, what we started from. It's just we finished the whole thing. So I hope you like this and give it a shot, and I will see you next time.